Marcus stepped onto the Nitherian starship Sphera, his boots clinking softly on the sleek, shimmering floor. The air buzzed faintly, not with sound but with a strange, almost tangible energy. As a maintenance technician, Marcus was used to all sorts of advanced tech, but Nitherian engineering had a reputation for being otherworldly, both figuratively and literally. "Welcome, human," came a melodious voice. Marcus looked up to see her, Elira, the ship's chief engineer. She was tall and radiant, her skin subtly glowing with pulses of light that seemed to ripple with her emotions. The intensity of her glow made Marcus pause for a moment. He quickly gathered himself, offering a polite nod. "I'm here to fix your reactor," he said, his tone professional. Elira tilted her head, her large, luminous eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Fix it? Together, we will restore its flow. Our system requires more than ordinary repairs." Marcus didn't know whether to laugh or cringe at her cryptic phrasing. "Right. Let's see what's going on," he replied, following her to the reactor chamber. The room was as breathtaking as it was intimidating. A massive core pulsed with light in the center, surrounded by alien panels that Marcus couldn't make heads or tails of. As he stepped closer, Elira suddenly placed a hand on his arm. Her touch was warm, uncomfortably so, and a tingle shot up his spine. "You must attune yourself to the energy first," she said, guiding his hand toward the nearest panel. Marcus hesitated. "I usually just use a wrench." Elira blinked, seemingly confused by the word. "Nitherian technology is more intimate. You must connect with it through touch." Suppressing a groan, Marcus placed his hand on the panel as instructed. The surface was smooth, almost soft, and a subtle hum vibrated beneath his fingers. As he worked, he felt Elira standing far too close for comfort, her skin glowing brighter by the second. "Is this normal?" Marcus asked, glancing at her. Her glow intensified, and her voice came out in a breathless whisper. "Your touch, it's unlike anything I've ever experienced." Marcus blinked. Thanks? I think." Elira's breathing quickened, and the glow on her skin flared. Suddenly, the reactor emitted a low, warning buzz, and Marcus yanked his hand back, startled. "What just happened?" "You triggered a surge," Elira said, her voice trembling. "Your energy, it harmonized with mine." Marcus frowned. "I'm not even sure what that means, but it doesn't sound good." "It's extraordinary," she said, stepping closer. "Do it again." Marcus backed away slightly, raising his hands. "Whoa, hold on. I don't think we should be experimenting with." "Please," Elira interrupted, her tone pleading. "You must. This connection could unlock untapped potential within the reactor. Or it could blow us to kingdom come," Marcus muttered under his breath. Still, he relented when he saw the determined look in her eyes. As he placed his hand back on the panel, Elira moved closer, her hand brushing his again. This time, the hum beneath his fingers intensified, and the glowing pulses on her skin synced with the reactor's rhythm. The sensation was oddly electric. "I've never felt energy flow like this," she murmured, her voice laced with awe. "You're special." "Pretty sure I'm just a guy with a toolbox," Marcus replied, trying to focus on the task at hand. His face flushed as Elira leaned in closer, her glowing skin now practically radiating heat. The hum in the room grew louder, and the reactor flickered momentarily before settling back to a steady pulse. Marcus exhaled in relief, stepping back from the panel. "There. Whatever that was, it's stable now." Elira's eyes were wide, her glow still bright. "Your touch stabilized it," she said softly. Then, after a beat, she added, "Human, your touch drives me crazy." Marcus froze. What?" She reached for his hand, but he quickly pulled it back, trying to process her words. "I think there's been a misunderstanding here." "No misunderstanding," Elira said, her voice earnest. "Your touch is powerful. Unique. It must be explored further." Marcus scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. "I'm not sure I'm qualified for whatever this is." Elira took a step closer, her glowing skin casting a warm light over him. You are more qualified than you know. Let me show you. Yup, Marcus muttered to himself, backing away. This is definitely not in the job description. The ship's corridors hummed with subdued energy as Marcus walked briskly, trying to shake off the awkward encounter in the reactor chamber. He wasn't sure what had just happened, but the intensity of Elira's reaction was something he couldn't ignore, or completely understand. He needed time to think, but time wasn't a luxury aboard the Sphera. Human. The melodic voice stopped him in his tracks. He turned to see Elira, her glow slightly dimmer but still radiating that ethereal warmth. She approached with a mixture of urgency and excitement, her movements graceful yet oddly purposeful. We must recalibrate. Marcus sighed, running a hand through his hair. Recalibrate? I thought the reactor was stable. It is, for now. But to ensure lasting harmony, we need to replicate the connection. The system thrives on synergy, Elira said, her gaze locked onto him, intense and unyielding. Synergy, Marcus repeated flatly. Right. Look, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I'm just a guy who turns wrenches and fixes things. I don't connect with systems. Elira tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing slightly. But you do. Your touch, it aligns with Nitherian energy. It's why the reactor responded to you so profoundly. Profoundly? Marcus muttered under his breath, shaking his head. Okay, fine. Let's just get this over with. She led him to a smaller chamber filled with intricate panels and pulsating lights. This time, she handed him a strange device, something resembling a cross between a gauntlet and a sculpted glove. This will help channel your energy more efficiently. Marcus hesitated, slipping the device over his hand. Feels snug. It must fit perfectly, Elira said, stepping closer, her fingers lightly brushing over his wrist as she adjusted the device. The contact sent a faint tingle up his arm, and he tried not to flinch. Precision is everything. Every touch matters. Marcus cleared his throat, pulling his hand away. Okay, where do I start? Elira gestured toward a panel on the wall, her voice taking on a hushed, almost reverent tone. Here. Gently at first. Then increase pressure as it responds. Marcus shot her a skeptical glance but placed his hand on the panel. The surface warmed under his touch, pulsing faintly as though alive. He moved his hand carefully, feeling the vibrations shift beneath his fingers. Perfect, Elira whispered, her voice thick with awe. Now, deeper. Marcus froze. Deeper? Yes. Increase the depth of your connection, she said earnestly, her glow intensifying. Push harder. He blinked, biting back a sarcastic remark. You know, you could phrase that differently. Phrase what? She asked, genuinely confused. Never mind. He applied more pressure, and the panel began to hum louder, its light flickering in tandem with his movements. Like this? Exactly, Elira said, her glow now so bright it cast shadows on the walls. Do you feel it? The flow? The way the energy responds to you? It's buzzing, Marcus admitted, focusing on the task even as the situation grew more surreal by the second. Is that normal? For you, perhaps, Elira said, her tone laced with something he couldn't quite identify, admiration, curiosity, something else entirely. Your energy is unique. Powerful. Marcus shook his head, trying to keep the conversation grounded. Look, I'm just following your instructions. I'm not some kind of miracle worker. But you are, Elira insisted, stepping closer. No other being has triggered such resonance within our systems. You are extraordinary, Marcus. The earnestness in her voice made him falter. I think you're giving me too much credit. I am only stating the truth, she replied, her gaze unwavering. Your touch, it is unlike anything we have ever known. Marcus sighed, pulling his hand back as the panel's hum subsided. Well, if that's all, I'll. It's not all, Elira interrupted, her glow dimming slightly as she took a step forward. This is only the beginning. There is so much more to explore. So much more potential to unlock. He held up his hands defensively. Look, I'm just trying to fix your reactor, not rewrite the laws of the universe. And yet, you already have, she said softly. Whether you realize it or not. Marcus groaned inwardly, turning toward the exit. I'm going to need a drink after this. The ship's alarms blared, jolting Marcus out of his restless thoughts. He had been trying to process the strange events of the day, but it seemed the Sphera wasn't going to give him a break. The red glow of the emergency lights bathed the corridor as Elira appeared, her usual calm demeanor replaced by urgency. The reactor is destabilizing again, she said, her voice sharp but steady. We need your touch to realign it. Marcus stared at her, dumbfounded. My touch? I thought we stabilized it earlier. It was a temporary fix, she admitted, grabbing his wrist and pulling him toward the reactor chamber. Her grip was firm but not uncomfortable, and the faint glow from her skin pulsed in sync with the alarms. The core is demanding more energy. Yours. This is starting to sound less like maintenance and more like some kind of weird ritual, Marcus muttered, following her despite his misgivings. Inside the chamber, the reactor's core pulsed erratically, its usual hum replaced by a deep, unsettling vibration. Panels flickered wildly, and the air was thick with static energy. Elira released Marcus's wrist and turned to him, her glowing skin now shimmering in waves. You must connect fully this time, she said, gesturing to the core. No barriers, no hesitations. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Connect fully? You're really not helping with the phrasing. I don't understand, she replied, genuinely puzzled. The words are accurate. He sighed, shaking his head. All right, fine. What do I need to do? Elira stepped closer, her voice softening. Place both hands on the core's interface. Feel its energy. Let it flow through you. Marcus hesitated, eyeing the pulsating core. And if it decides to flow a little too much? I will guide you, she said, her glow intensifying. Together, we can stabilize it. He muttered a quiet prayer to himself and approached the core. As he placed his hands on the interface, a jolt of energy surged through him, making his muscles tense. That's a lot of flow. Good, Elira said, standing just behind him. Now, synchronize with its rhythm. Move with it. The core's vibrations grew stronger, and Marcus found himself instinctively adjusting his movements to match. The sensation was overwhelming but not entirely unpleasant, a strange mix of power and warmth that seemed to resonate deep within him. You're doing it, Elira whispered, her voice filled with awe. Your touch is creating harmony. Glad to hear it, Marcus replied through gritted teeth. Now how do we lock this in so I don't have to keep playing reactor whisperer? Maintain the connection, she said, stepping closer until her hands were almost touching his. We must sustain this energy flow long enough to stabilize the core. The hum of the reactor grew steadier, and Marcus began to relax slightly, though the intensity of the moment wasn't lost on him. So, is this going to be a regular thing? Because I'm not sure my contract covers this level of intimacy with alien tech. Elira chuckled softly, the sound warm and genuine. You are remarkable, Marcus. Few could handle this.
Yeah.
Well, I've had plenty of practice dealing with high-pressure situations, he quipped, though the strain in his voice betrayed his effort. As the reactor's hum settled into a steady rhythm, the tension in the room began to ease. Marcus let out a long breath, his hands still pressed against the interface. Is that it? Are we good? Elira's glow dimmed slightly, her expression softening. The core is stable, for now. For now, Marcus repeated, shaking his head. Great. I'll just add emergency reactor stabilizer to my resume. You underestimate your importance, Elira said, stepping closer. Her voice was quieter now, almost hesitant. Your touch is unique. It resonates in ways we have never experienced before. Marcus turned to her, his hands finally leaving the interface. Look, I appreciate the compliments, but I'm just a guy doing his job. Nothing more. Her eyes met his, glowing softly. You are more than that, Marcus. Even if you don't see it yet. Marcus leaned against the cool wall of the corridor, trying to gather his thoughts. The reactor was stable, for now, but the events of the day left him feeling more drained than he cared to admit. Just as he was about to close his eyes and steal a moment of peace, Elira appeared once more, her glow softer now but no less intense. We need to talk, she said, her voice unusually gentle. Marcus sighed, straightening up. He wasn't sure he had the energy for another round of Nytherian touch-based technology discussions. Let me guess, he said dryly. The reactor's acting up again? No, she replied, shaking her head. This isn't about the reactor. It's about you. Marcus blinked, caught off guard by her earnest tone. Me? Elira stepped closer, her glowing eyes searching his face. You've done more than stabilize our systems. You've shown me something I didn't think was possible. He frowned. What are you talking about? She hesitated, as though searching for the right words. Your touch, it's more than just a physical connection. It's transformative. I feel it in my very core. Marcus stared at her, unsure how to respond. Look, Elira, I don't know what you think is happening here, but I'm just a maintenance guy. There's nothing special about me. That's where you're wrong, she said firmly. You are unlike anyone I've ever met. Your presence, your energy, it resonates with me in ways I can't explain. Resonates, he repeated, rubbing the back of his neck. Right. Well, I'm flattered, but I'm not exactly sure where you're going with this. Elira took another step closer, her glow intensifying. I believe we are aligned. Nytherians rarely find such harmony with others, but with you, it's undeniable. Marcus held up his hands. Whoa, hold on. Are you saying what I think you're saying? She tilted her head, her expression both curious and determined. I am asking if you feel the same connection. If you are willing to explore it further. His mouth opened, then closed again as he tried to process her words. Elira, I think you're misunderstanding. I'm just here to fix things, not to align. Her glow dimmed slightly, her shoulders dropping in what almost looked like disappointment. I see. Perhaps I was mistaken. Marcus felt a pang of guilt at her reaction. He didn't want to hurt her feelings, but this entire situation was more than he'd signed up for. It's not that I don't appreciate what you're saying, he said carefully. I just think we're different. Different, she echoed softly. Yet it is those differences that make this connection so remarkable. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, Elira, I'm not sure how to handle this. I'm just a guy trying to do his job without blowing up your ship. You've done more than that, she said, stepping closer again. You've brought stability not only to the reactor but to me. I didn't realize how much I needed it until now. Marcus rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of her words. This is a lot to take in. I understand, she said softly. But know this, whatever you decide, you have already left a lasting impact. On me, on this ship, on everything. He looked at her, the sincerity in her glowing eyes making it hard to dismiss her outright. You're not making this easy, you know that? I never intended to, she replied with a faint smile. Nytherians value directness. He chuckled despite himself.
Yeah,
I've noticed. They stood in silence for a moment, the hum of the ship the only sound between them. Finally, Marcus let out a long breath. All right, let's say I'm willing to explore this connection. What does that even look like? Elira's glow brightened, her expression softening into something almost hopeful. It begins with trust. With openness. And with the understanding that this connection is unique to us. Trust, huh? Marcus said, crossing his arms. All right. But let's take it slow, okay? I'm still trying to wrap my head around all of this. Of course, she said, her tone gentle but unwavering. We will proceed at your pace. He nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief at her words. Good. Because I'm still not sure if this is the weirdest job I've ever had or the most interesting. Perhaps it is both, Elira said with a small smile. And perhaps that is what makes it worth pursuing. Marcus chuckled, shaking his head. You Nitherians really have a way with words. She inclined her head, her glow softening. And you humans have a way with touch.
Yeah.
I'm starting to figure that out, he muttered, a faint smile tugging at his lips. All right, let's see where this goes. But if the reactor starts acting up again, you're on your own. Agreed, she said, her smile widening. For now, let us focus on the connection that truly matters. Marcus sighed, shaking his head but unable to suppress his grin. You're impossible, you know that? Perhaps, she replied, her glow brightening once more. But with you, anything seems possible.